Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard Day the Cruz, who's not here today, and Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, August 25th, 2025. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/gamingdiscourse, patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more fun stuff. We are going all audio today, so we'll have no video. We're just going to have an audio copy or audio file up on the YouTubes. A storm has separated us. It is monsoon season, and those are too dangerous to drive in.
The wet season.
But it is nice to see water again for the first time in a millennia, because water does not exist in the middle of the dry and death and lethality of the Sonoran Desert. Connor, how you doing?
Not too bad.
Have you been playing video games?
I have been playing Age of Mythology religiously the past couple of days.
Really? Okay. Why is that?
Yeah.
Dish.
Well, there was a little mini tournament at work for it, and I jumped in on it. And I just remembered how much I loved playing, like Age of Empires and games like that. And so I noticed that it was on sale on Steam, half off. I think it still is. I was like, fuck it, it's fun. I love it. And then I put like almost 20 hours into it over the weekend.
Nice. Okay. I don't think I've ever played it. Is it a 4X or what is it?
So it's a base builder RTS, kind of like Age of Empires, or like a Company of Heroes.
Got it. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And is that how the gameplay works then? Like, because in Company of Heroes, you have to chain together resource points and stuff like that.
Not exactly. You have like actually better example would probably be StarCraft.
Oh, okay. So it's just you build up an army and just swarm them into your enemy's base, essentially. Exactly. Nice. Okay.
But it's Age of Mythology, so instead of just like like Greeks and the Norse and Egyptian soldiers, you also can get like the Minotaur and like a Sphinx and like and Valkyrie and different like creatures and characters from mythology.
I've been craving a good like RTS. Haven't played like a modern RTS in a while. So So okay. Well, how's your gameplay been then? And did you enter and do anything in that tournament?
Oh, I got knocked out in the first round.
I'm sorry.
Well, it had been a decade since I had touched an Age of game, so it was a steep learning curve. And I lied. The sale has ended for Age of Mythology.
That's too bad. Okay, so yeah, so you were gonna go into it?
Oh, it's the remaster, so everything looks just a lot nicer than it used to be. Everything feels a little bit more fluid than the old Age games used to. And there's new content coming out for it soon, soon-ish. I don't know exactly when. But they're adding Japanese folklore to the game.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. What kind of cultures are there?
Currently in the game with the DLCs, there's the Greeks, the Norse, the Egyptians, the Atlanteans, and the Chinese.
The Atlanteans.
Yeah, it's part of like the story takes place, like one of the campaigns takes place with like the fall of Atlantis.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are all places that Kratos will eventually go and decimate.
Exactly.
Is what I'm hearing. Is this?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is what I'm hearing. I want the Bible in there. I want like you play as Abraham, Jesus, Ezekiel. I want the Bible thrown in there. Why not? I think that'd be fantastic. Tons of fun.
I think a certain large demographic of people would have an issue with you calling the Bible mythology.
I don't know. I don't think so. We're not calling it mythology. We're just saying, hey, it's in this game. It's just part of the game. It's not part of the mythology, even though it is mythology. But I mean, it's not part of the game's mythology. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, well that sounds fun. Any other games, or do you have any thoughts? Any other thoughts?
That's really it. I've just been cracking out on that.
Okay. So what have I been playing? more Death Stranding 2, which I gotta say, I'm just not, I don't know. Death Stranding 2 is fine. I just don't find it all that interesting. I don't think it's as interesting as the first game. I don't think it's as challenging as the first game. Every time it introduces something where I feel like it's going to be more of a challenge, then what ends up happening is the game is just not challenging. I mean, earlier today or yesterday, I had to make a delivery into a mountain, and when I was making the delivery, a snowstorm started, and that was awesome because I'm climbing up this mountainside, and it's like the big, like there's one big mountain range in the game. So I'm climbing up this big mountain range, and there's lots of snow and wind everywhere, can barely see. My Odra deck, I have my Odra deck light on, so I'm trying to like shine a light in front of me. So it was like really intense, and it was difficult because I had to find my way up. I tried a couple creative ways to like get up the mountain while the snowstorm was going. I was dragging cargo behind me on a little trolley thing. They have the floating platforms you can put cargo on that Sam drags. So I was doing that, and every now and then I had to like turn around and use the cargo repair spray to repair it, because the storm is because timefall, rain in the game, right, destroys your boxes. And so you have to spray it with the cargo spray to fix it, or else the contents of the boxes will eventually be damaged. So I packed like 5 of these sprays to go with me, and I ended up using almost all of them because that's how intense it was. So I thought it was really cool. It was like really, and at the end, Sam was like exhausted because I was walking through snow the whole time. So I was like, okay, this was really cool. And then I got another mission right after that was like, okay, you have to go deeper into the mountain. So I was like, hell yeah. So I loaded up all kinds of like ropes and climbing gear and other things that was going to help me out. And when I went on it, it was just easy. Like I took a bike, assuming that the bike would eventually the mountain would get too steep and I wouldn't be able to like use the bike anymore. But that wasn't the case. The bike made it a lot of the way. There was an avalanche, which was really cool. So it's like the avalanche happened. I didn't know what to do, so I was riding down the mountain, running away from an avalanche. That moment was neat. And then I escaped the avalanche, and after that, it was right back to like, oh, okay. And I just walked the rest of the way. So all this stuff I did to like get ready for this trek up this mountain, again, it just ended up being way easier than I thought it was going to be. And that's kind of just the story behind Death Stranding 2. It's just the same problems that I think plagued the first Death Stranding haven't been creatively engineered around or made anew or like rebuilt in Death Stranding 2. And the things that Death Stranding 2 do differently, I just don't care a whole lot about. Like there's more combat in Death Stranding 2, and that's cool. But Death Stranding was never about the combat. Like it was a stealth game. If you had to go and you had to sneak by BTs. I mean, every now and then there was a boss fight, but there were weapons that were laying everywhere, and the boss fights weren't all that difficult. So it was just like, I don't know, it wasn't a game that to me screamed the combat needs to be more robust. I just didn't think that was the case with the first Death Stranding. In my mind, the first Death Stranding's biggest problem was that it was too easy. I wanted the carrying mechanic to be denser, more complex. I turned off, I don't play online in Death Stranding 2 because in the first game I got tired of like wanting to build a bridge somewhere and some other player built it already, which is nice, but like that sort of ruined the experience for me wanting to find my own way, right? And so I'm playing offline in Death Stranding 2 so that I don't see other players' structures. But yeah, I mean, I have a car with a bunch of batteries on it, and that basically gets me everywhere I need to be. I have a few charging stations around the map. So it's like building roads, if I took the time to build roads, sure, it would make getting around a bit easier. I could get around faster. But is it worth the effort for me to grind and build the roads and find all the material needed to do that? And I just don't know if it's worth the time to do all that. So I don't know. And the story is not as interesting, I think. I don't know. The first Death Stranding, because you're being introduced to the world and you're learning about all these characters and you're learning about all this crazy stuff. Like, I thought that was all really interesting. Death Stranding 2, I don't know, it introduces new characters, but it doesn't spend a whole lot of time with them in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very awkward way. I don't know. I'd have to get into. I could like to get into specifics. You will see a cutscene where something happens in Death Stranding 2. And then Dollman, the character who is a man whose soul is trapped in a Marishka doll, or something like a Marishka doll, he will then explain what happened in the cutscene. And it's just kind of awkward because you're constantly having things explained to you. That is very Hideo Kojima, where everything is consistently being explained to you. But like, I don't know, it just feels there are new characters, but it just makes me frustrated. It doesn't feel like the characters I get to spend time with them as much time as I'd like. And there's one I explained this to Richard, but I was being vague because I think there's one. I was being vague because it's a big like spoiler. But there's one big thing that happens to a character that I think the game handles in a really strange and kind of like not interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm playing it, but I don't have the motivation or drive to like complete all of the deliveries and get 5 stars everywhere and set up a what's the thing called a zipline network. Like in the first game, I set up a zipline network that went over the mountain range, so I could start on one side of the mountain, zip line across the entire mountain way up to the top and then way down to the other side, and this huge mountain range that would take you like 15 minutes to climb across, maybe longer, 20-30 minutes. It took me literally 30 seconds to get to the other side because I just had this zip line, and it took me like a while to establish all that. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Death Stranding 2, I'm just not as interested in it. I don't feel as invested in the story. There are mysteries, but like the mysteries aren't interesting because it deals with these, like the UCA is the government of the United States after the Death Stranding, right? Because it's a post-apocalyptic game. So there are mysteries about like, oh, the UCA and UCA secrets, but the UCA has always been this thing that was like a distant organization that just existed for lore. Like you never
Mm-hmm.
had to fight UCA troops or contend with characters who wanted certain things for the, I don't know. It was just like a distant thing. It was a distant piece of lore. So it's like having mysteries about the UCA is difficult because it's something that you don't even know. It's just a part of the world, right? So it's like, okay, well, I don't know, what does this matter? So yeah, and I feel like I already sort of called one of the big quote unquote reveals that's coming up. So I don't know. I'm a little I don't I'm a little disappointed. Every now and then I get the motivation and I make a bunch of deliveries and I'm having a good time. But right now it's just like you unlock gear and the gear is cool, but the gear is useful maybe once. And that's like the only time where it's like, oh damn, I wish I had that thing. But other
Mm-hmm.
than that, the game is not built in a way where it's like you really have to think about, at least for the most part, where you're like really have to think about your deliveries, and that's what I kind of wish it was. I wish it were closer to something like, I don't know, Satisfactory in a way, because Satisfactory, it's like you're the mechanics are all built around building your factory and like and doing the and making your factory as efficient as possible. So everything from like running water lines to power lines to splitting power lines to where do you place certain manufacturing things, where do you place your generators at, what do you build roads, do you build tubes that suck you in like you're in the mailroom and they take you one side of your factory to the other really quickly, like what things do you build to get your factory running as efficiently as possible, where do you organize everything, like all the gameplay, because it's about building a factory, is folded into the factory. In Death Stranding, it's a delivery game. So again, it's like there's logistics, right? Making deliveries, planning your routes, planning for dangers, planning for BTs. But it's just too easy, and so the gameplay just a lot of the additional stuff that you unlock just feels useless because it's like the game would be fine without with this stuff is cool, and like some of the gloves are cool, some of Sam's tech stuff is neat, but it's like I don't know, I just haven't been in a case where I absolutely had to use it or where I didn't use it and I was at a disadvantage or punished for not doing so. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Death Stranding, and I'm gonna keep playing it. I'm gonna finish it, but yeah, I think for the most part, I think the first Death Stranding was better. I think the first Death Stranding was like weirder and crazier. It was more interesting. In some ways, it was more offensive, which is, at least it was something. Like, I don't know. This one, I just feel, I don't know. It's hard for me to care about the characters because all the, characters have a little gimmick. Ooh, this character does this character does that. And then they disappeared. There's a submarine thing that you're on in Death Stranding 2, which goes around the map. And all the characters like live on this submarine. So you'll see them in cutscenes and stuff, but it's like you don't get to spend time with them. You don't get quests for them, right? Like, I think it would have been great if these characters had specific quests and then you got to actually have dialogue with them and actually have some kind of relationship, understand their personality a bit more. But instead, it's like the characters are, I don't know, superheroes. It's like, oh, this person can do this and this person can do this. And every now and then you'll get a little cute cutscene with them. But other than that, you don't get to, it's not like Red Dead where you get to really get to know them and spend time with them or anything like that. And in the first game, that was also the case. But in the first game, it wasn't like Sam was making a bunch of friends. It was Death Stranding was, a lot of Death Stranding was very lonely. You're by yourself, you're out in the wild making connections. That was sort of the point of the game. So in this game, Death Stranding 2, now you have these people that are with you a lot more, and you have this submarine that's traveling everywhere with all these people with their own stories and stuff. So it's like there's like more opportunity to get to know these characters, but I just don't think Death Stranding 2 thus far really capitalizes on that. So yeah, there are some badass cutscenes, like there are some cutscenes that are really cool. I don't think this is a spoiler, but Higgs was the main villain in the first game. If you watched any of the trailers, Higgs comes back. But it's just I'm not interested in Higgs because it's just like I just don't care. Like he's a bad guy again, and so why is he doing what he's doing? I don't know. But I just don't care. Like I think it would have been more interesting had the villain been somebody new or someone else or someone zanier or crazier. Higgs does new stuff in Death Stranding 2, which is neat. But I don't know. I'm just not I guess a lot of the stuff is just, I'm like, oh, that's neat. And then I kind of just deliver a package and it's fine. And I just don't care anymore. Also, man, when you deliver a package in Death Stranding 2, it's really annoying, especially when you get a new star rating. Because you have to go through like 6 fucking menus. It's like you deliver the package, and then it's like, oh, it like you get a rating for the package, and then you get your Porter score, which shows you like scores in different areas like combat, stealth, reliability, or whatever. And then if you get a new star ranking, the person's like, oh, hey, I increased the materials. You have more materials. I have more materials you can take from me. And every single person has a new line for, I have all these materials for you to take. And it's like, I don't need a line there. Just show me a picture, show me a screen with all this stuff on it. It'll be a lot of stuff, but I will be okay. And then like, if you get a new piece of equipment, it's like the people will have to explain in detail what this new piece of equipment does. Even though it's like, okay, I get it. It says extra battery. I understand what an extra battery is. I don't need 3 lines of dialogue to tell me what an extra battery is. And it's just like, So it's like, do I skip through all this? But I'm somebody that doesn't like to skip dialogue because I'm terrified that in the middle of dialogue somewhere there's going to be like, oh, by the way, a super important plot point, and I'm going to skip over it or something. So I listen to it all, but it just drives me nuts because it's like, I know what a gun is. You don't got to tell me what this gun does. I can read. I can see it silenced. You don't need to describe the concept of suppressor, Kojima. I understand what a suppressor is. But anyway, so yeah.
This is the silence death gun. It kills people till they die from it.
Yeah, silently. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, there we go.
I will hit the news and we will talk about game trailers. Here we go.
Yay.
Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Okay, so Gamescom was this past weekend. So was the Future Games show, and there was a bunch of other trailers that dropped. So we're going to talk about some of our favorite trailers, some of the stuff that we saw that we liked. Some of it, just to be clear, some of it's Gamescom, some of it's not Gamescom, some of it is stuff that just released. So we're just gonna bounce around here.
Gamescom adjacent.
Gamescom adjacent. It's like the back half of the summer game show. Now it seems like that's split in two kind of now. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get more for the Game Awards. In any case, Hell Let Loose Vietnam, that comes out in 2026. That looks neat. So we don't have a ton of the last like tactical shooter set in Vietnam that I can think of was Red
Rising
Orchestra.
Storm.
Yeah, Red Orchestra, right?
Red Orchestra, yeah.
I don't know if it, because Rising Storm was the Pacific Theater, I think.
My brain just defaults to that.
Yeah. So I think Red Orchestra, like Vietnam or something like that. Maybe it was that simple. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the last game, and the Hell Let Loose series I think is closer to Red Orchestra, right? Because Red Orchestra has like UI elements and stuff that a game like Squad doesn't have, or like Squad 42, which used to be it used to be called something else, but now it's Squad 42. Oh, no.
It was Rising Storm 2 Vietnam.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, because Rising Storm I think was the Pacific Theater, and then I guess they just did that again. So whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I enjoy Hell Let Loose. I've never played it as much as like Squad, but I would love to hop back in, and always with like tactical shooters after World War II is you get helicopters involved, which makes things complicated, but also the nature of the Vietnam War and how asymmetrical it was kind of changes things up, because, you know, you had one side that was technologically advanced, et cetera, et cetera. You have the other side that was guerrilla, lots of guerrilla combat. So how do you build that in? Red Orchestra 2 did that in a few interesting ways, where it's like the North Vietnamese had different tunnel systems that they could spawn out of and stuff like that, while the United States had helicopters, and so you had mobility that way and firepower. And that's in some ways is worked into Squad, because Squad has like factions that have like small helicopters or don't have any helicopters, so they compensate in different ways. But so it'll be interesting to see how they work all that, and also tanks, because tanks obviously weren't like a massive feature of the Vietnam War. But if they do decide to like implement vehicular combat somehow, it will be interesting to see what they do. Also, just because those tanks you don't see often in like video games or even in media in general. I think maybe the Patton was the tank they used in Vietnam, the M48. That may be wrong. That's off the top of my head. I really don't know. A few other games here. Edge of Memories looks really, really cool. That comes in 2026. That's the sequel to Edge of Eden or something like that. I forget now. Den of Wolves, that doesn't have a release date. That's a co-op heist game from the creators of GTFO. Yeah, I would love to go back and play GTFO again. I don't know how much you remember from GTFO.
I remember it getting very what's the word I'm looking for? People figured out the game, and so there was a
Yes,
a very formulaic way of playing it.
Yeah, and they figured out exploits as well, because you could like do that thing where you would crouch jump everywhere or something, and that ruined the experience for me because GTFO was really immersive and intense, and the ambience was like amazing. And then you'd play with dudes who needed to like, speed run through missions, and it would just
they optimized the fun out of the game.
Yeah, they did. Everything became about like YouTube and TikTok highlights instead of, I don't know, playing the game in like a more fun, quote unquote, way. But whatever. I would love to go back to it. And Den of Wolves looks interesting. And I know that the last Payday didn't get great reviews. Payday 3. I'm not sure if how well it's faring now. But co-op heist games, I feel like, is a genre that probably needs to be dug in more a little bit. Probably needs to be exploited a little bit more. So, yeah, I can't wait for that. 1348X Votto. I don't know if it's Voto or Votto. That comes out in 2026. That looks really interesting. Looks like it may be similar to the Plague Tale games, and it being set in medieval Europe. All of a sudden, after like Pentiment and Kingdom Come Deliverance, I'm just like, give me the medieval stuff. Okay, I want medieval stuff. I want to know about the Holy Roman Empire. I want to know about the 100 Years War. Let's go. I want to know about the plague. Give me all this history. I can't wait. This is exciting. But okay, so Dreams of Another. I have you watched anything on Dreams of Another?
No.
I cannot wait for Dreams of Another. It's this weird game where you play as a kid in a dream, and you go around and you have a gun, and your gun doesn't destroy things, your gun creates things or something. But I watched, they did a little like behind the scenes featurette, which was interesting. Where the creator was talking about like inspirations for the game and what they wanted to like explore, like ideas about what inspires dreams. And I think also there are themes of free will. And I thought that was interesting because dreams are obviously like a conscious experience that come from your subconscious. So it's like, it's one of those things that happens to you that you don't get to choose, right? The dreams are just sort of involuntary. But anyway, after watching that video, and it's going to be a PSVR 2 game as well, I just can't wait for this weird, for this whatever the hell this third person dream-like shooter is going to be. I'm really excited for that. Windstorm, The Legend of Kimori. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but you play as a courier in like 13th or 14th century Mongolia. And it's a game where you like take care of a horse and you deliver things. And I'm not sure, in the trailer it shows you planning your route. So I'm not sure how much Death Stranding is in that. But there is a woman who specializes in how horses are portrayed in games. And I forget her name. I think it was Alice. I think she was German. She ran a website that was all about how horses are portrayed in games, both realistically and not realistically. It was really interesting, but I believe she was what's the term I'm looking for? An advisor on this game, because the game is so much about horses, right? And riding horses, and you can raise horses and breed horses, I think. So it's like a horse/delivery game, which I think is interesting. I'm really excited for that. And also it makes me think about like, I think people want different, crazy, weird experiences, things that are out there, things that are a bit different. And I know that Legend of Kimori found some success on wish lists. Like I think, if I remember correctly, they're A lot of people hit the wish list button on the Steam storefront, which I did too. And I don't know, that kind of is encouraging to me, especially with what we're talking about in a little bit. As I don't know, I feel like people want different experiences. I mean, you could say this with a lot of these games, you know, Den of Wolves, Dreams of Another, or it's like these ideas that aren't sort of your standard AAA, you know, big console killer app games, but I think have a space that they can find all their own and to be successful with. So what did you like about John Carpenter's Toxic Commando?
Just pulled up real quick. So one, I don't think there's a John Carpenter product that I haven't liked. And
Escape
two,
from LA? Have you ever seen Escape from LA?
It just looks like a chaotic zombie shooter. We don't know a ton about it yet. It's supposed to come out in 2026, but it just looks, I don't know, a guy standing in the back of a driving pickup truck shooting a flamethrower at zombie horde chasing him. That just sounds fun.
Yes, it does. Yes,
with a giant tentacle monster in the background, by the way.
I was gonna watch the new trailer, completely forgot to, but I've been excited for this since I saw the first trailer for it, and I agree. Like, I don't know what's going on with like the soundtrack, but man, if we had like a John Carpenter synth soundtrack, that would be absolutely incredible. I don't know if that's actually happening, but yeah, another like dumb co-op zombie shooter sounds so good, especially after, I don't know, did we play the World War Z game together?
We did.
Because that one was like a really solid, you know, 20-hour co-op shooter where you were in, you were out, you got some basic abilities. It was just like Alien Fireteam Elite, right? Really solid. Scratched a bunch of different itches. Wasn't too complicated. Wasn't too long. You didn't have to get too invested. You know, had some deep mechanics that you could change around to make things a little bit more interesting. I think the World War Z game had different classes. I think there was like a ammo dude and a medic dude, maybe. I don't remember. But
I think so.
Something like that, yeah. But man, those kinds of experiences, those like finite experiences that they don't launch with like 5 years of content planned ahead. It's like they've got a year of content, maybe a year and a half of content, some new stuff. You know, you're going to spend 20 hours, maybe 30 hours until you complete everything in the game. You're in and you're out. It's not $70. It's like, you know, somewhere between like 30 and 50. And that's those kinds of experiences I love, and that's what Toxic Commando looks like it might be. But obviously, there's a bunch that we don't know about. Bounty Star is one.
Yes, it's big mech game. You stomp around big mech, collect bounties, and go back to your farm. I don't think I need to explain it more. Why? That just sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Steam page right now. It looks like you can build like farmland or something. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, I'm sold. Oh, on October 23rd, 2025. So that comes out this year.
Yeah,
and the developer is called Dino God.
Yeah.
All right, and it's got a subtitle. It's Bounty Star. The
morose tale of Graveyard Klim.
Nice. All right. So it sounds like a little bit of a Western, right?
Yeah. Kind of like if you look at like through any like the screenshots on the Steam page, it screams space Western.
Okay, that's awesome. That reminds me a little bit of this old game called Starhawk, which I don't know.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, which I have the PS. I had it somewhere. I don't have it anymore, which is really disappointing. Or maybe I have the disc, but not the box. I don't know. But because Starhawk was sort of the same thing, where you didn't have mechs. You had, maybe you did. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. You had
like a plane that transformed into a mech.
Did you in Starhawk?
I'm fairly certain.
Okay, but you could call buildings down from like space, and that's how you would build a base. You would call them down from like space, they would land, or something like that. It's been 10 years since I played it, but I do remember that it had a kick-ass like like it had a really cool theme song, which I thought was awesome. But anyway, so more vibes like that is always cool. Will Follow the Light. It kind of looked like a creepy version of Myst in a way.
Yeah.
Where you were also like on a boat, and there was a radio that you could control, and you had to change the sails on the boat, and at some point you could get off the boat, I guess, and walk around like on land or on an island or something. I don't know. The trailer was kind of vague, but I thought that looked really neat. And then there's a couple Star Trek games here. I'll talk about them in a second. Yeah, Fellowship. You have Fellowship here. I think Fellowship also looked really cool. But I don't know what type of game.
You didn't play a ton of WoW. I don't think you may have like jumped in like once or twice to play with a friend.
Altogether, probably like 5 hours all time of WoW.
This game, the character design just screams like the what I consider like the peak of WoW, which is like right before like the big change cataclysm. So around like 2014, it looks like that art style, and that makes me so happy. And it's a endless dungeon crawler. Yay. Just give me magic spells to cast at enemies forever, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, there's a couple different classes. There was looked like a spellcaster class. There was like a barbarian. There was a ranger, or like not ranger, rogue, I guess is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
And I think maybe another class in there. Maybe that class would be the ranger, or like a more traditional fighter or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, that caught my eye as well because it's co-op, and yeah, it does look really cool.
Yeah, from the screenshots, it looks like it looks like it's our typical types. You have your healer, your tank, your DPS range, or your DPS melee as the rogue, and the DPS range as the wizard.
There are a
caster,
lot of
mage, whatever.
It seems like there are a lot of co-op games, which is good.
Yes.
And the good thing about co-op games, especially if they're finite experiences, is you can always what's the Remedy co-op game that came out a couple months ago didn't get great reviews. I forget what FBC Control Group or something like that. In any case, like that's one that's like eventually I'm sure that'll be fun to hop into, get it on a sale or something. So it'll always exist, and that's a positive, cool thing. Blood of the Dawnwalker by Rebel Wolves. Yeah, I think that one's on a lot of people's radar. And there's some kind of mechanic about some stuff happening at night, but I don't remember what that mechanic is.
Well, it makes sense since you're a vampire.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Human by day, vampire by night.
Yeah, but I don't know like what exactly how the mechanic works, or if they've explained how the mechanic works yet. But I just know that there's some kind of day-night thing that's important to which, yes, when you're talking about vampires. But also the vampires in the game, they aren't like at least from the trailers that I've seen, they're not like the sexy vampires. They're like they're like the terrifying vampires with like anglerfish teeth.
less Dracula, more Nosferatu.
Yes, yeah. So they're a little misshapen, I guess, and a little more like scary looking, which will be neat. And of course, Rebel Wolves are the people. Some of them are former CD Projekt Red devs. So yeah, I think this is probably a lot of people's like most anticipated game for next year, and I think it is coming out next year. I think I got.
I think so. I think it's 2026.
2026, yeah. So yeah, maybe this will be who knows? Maybe this will be
coming soon. It doesn't have a specific day or a specific year.
Okay. I thought I saw 2026. That's fine.
So did I.
In any case, hopefully it comes out soon. Hopefully it's really good. And next year, I don't want GTA 6 to run away with Game of the Year. I want competitors, right?
Oh, it won't. Because Dawn of War 4 is coming out next year.
Yeah, it's going to win Game of the Year, baby.
Oh, it's gonna.
So Dawn of War 4 is going to have co-op and stuff. Have you looked into how this is going to work?
Not yet, but I know other games have done co-op like campaigns before. So it's not an unprecedented thing that's new and innovative, but it will be for the Dawn of War series. But yeah, more fucking Warhammer. Let's go.
And what?
It's my year. It is the year of Warhammer.
And what factions are going to be playable? I know orcs.
So from what it looked like, there was orcs, necrons, space marines, obviously with the blood angels or the blood ravens. They're the main character of the Dawn of War series. The Adeptus Mechanicus looked playable. There was Admech character who grabbed a necron and crushed its skull, so that was pretty fucking cool. Biggest win they've had in a while. Yeah, probably those. I'm probably thinking the Eldari might be there, so you get your space elves in there as well to keep those 6 fans happy.
Damn, just throwing out punches, just coming swinging.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, so Warhammer is Space Marine, and then everything else is second place. So
yeah, except for the Gene Stealer Colts, baby. It's 1A and 1B. You know what I'm talking about. Or the Leagues of Votan. Hell yeah, who I haven't even played a game with, but I've got them built and ready to go. So okay, the Adeptus Mechanicus, are they not? I thought they used Space Marines as their ground troops. Is that not?
So no, they have their own military. The Adeptus, okay, without going too deep into the 40k lore, the Adeptus Mechanicus is an empire within the Imperium. They're separate but a part of the empire, of the Imperium.
Interesting. So they have some form of autonomy or something?
Yes.
Okay. It's terrifying that there is enough people to mass armies for both a faction and a faction within another faction.
Well, I mean, it's a universe, or it's a galaxy spanning setting. The Imperium of Man is said to have 1 million planets. So not really all that surprising.
I guess not. But it's just still. Warhammer is terrifying because there's the amount of death, the scale,
absolutely,
the insane
one
scale
of the few
of death.
settings that if you're like, hey, would you want to spend time in your favorite setting? Every Warhammer fan's like, no.
Except for the real crazies like me, Gene Stealer Colts, baby, who just wanna give up to our gods, the Tyranids, baby. Okay. Was there? Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the Star Trek game. So, Star Trek Voyager: Across the Unknown, super unexpected, but looks super cool.
Yeah,
it looks like a management sim where you can see inside Voyager and you can manage things and, I don't know, build things. Maybe, I don't know. That looks neat. I think there's a bunch of stuff you can do there. I think that's a genre that's really good for like a Star Trek game, because if you take the role of a captain, I think that's an interesting sort of perspective to give a player if they are a captain of a ship. I'm curious, like, how much I don't know, because it is Voyager, which means Janeway and Tuvok and Chakotay and Ensign Kim and Tom Paris and B'Elanna. So I'm curious how much of those characters you will get to interact with, and or are they just going to be sort of there and they give buffs or bonuses or something, or are you actually going to get like stories and dialogue? Because that will be interesting. But it is random that sort of Voyager out of nowhere gets a video game. Not that I'm complaining. I love it. I can't wait. And also, it's interesting because Voyager, of course, the premise of Star Trek Voyager is that they get lost in the Omega Quadrant. And they have to, or the Delta Quadrant. Omega's DS9. They get lost in the Delta Quadrant and they have to like fly their way back. So they have to survive. So it's like, I wonder, I think I saw something about you having to like gather resources to continue on and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for this. I think this is an idea that could be really cool. And we need more Star Trek games. Because the last Star Trek game I never finished because it was unfinished when it released. And I would love to go back
I finished it.
I would love to go back to it eventually. And it had some really neat writing and a really interesting story in some aspects. But like the mini games, what was it called? Star Trek. I forget now. It came out last year. It was like a Telltale type game, which I think is perfect for Star Trek, right? I think that's a genre that works perfectly for Star Trek, especially when you're handling the dynamics of a crew and stuff like that. But
Star Trek Resurgence,
yeah. And it also dealt with a sort of a deep cut ish of TNG, because it brought up an old episode that has that has ridiculous Ferengi in it, like just the dumbest. Like it was back when the Ferengi were like a mean joke before they took them seriously.
They have their pool noodle whips.
I always thought they kind of looked like dildos, the dildo whips, but that's just.
I was trying to keep it a little PC.
We can just say it because if as soon as you Google it, you're like, oh yeah, that's what those are.
Yes, it was the Ferengi dildo whips.
80s,
yes,
when everything was like accidentally weird and creepy and stuff. I don't know why it was like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm really excited for that. I think I'm hoping that they do it justice, and if it releases on, it's going to release on Steam, and it feels like a game that should be Steam Deck compatible, which would be even better, because it doesn't seem like a game that I need to play on like a 70-inch TV or anything like that. Star Trek Infection is the VR game that I think looks interesting, but I'm skeptical of, just because body horror, Star Trek, I don't know. Maybe I would be better, like I would be more okay with it if there were just a bunch of great Star Trek games out there, but like finally getting a cool VR Star Trek game, you know, where you can get up and hold tricorders and stuff. And it also has this weird infection storyline, and it's horror. It's just like, I don't know. I'll keep an open mind. I think you play as a Vulcan too, which is interesting. But yeah. So okay. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to talk about? I didn't like the trailer for Neo Berlin. It annoyed me. I don't like when trailers, I don't know, try to show off like how smart the writers are or something. The trailer opened with like, do you know that a black hole's gravity is so strong that nothing can escape it, not even light? And then it like cut to something completely unrelated. So it's like this little comment about a black hole is just there to try and sound profound or interesting, and it goes right on to stuff that's like unrelated and whatnot. I don't know. It reminds me of that trailer for the Dying Light game where the guy recites that letter by Galileo where he's like, I do not believe that the God that endowed us with certain senses or reasoning abilities. He recites that letter, and it's just like, man, come on, you're Dying Light. He's like, come on, you don't get to try and recite like classical literature or history or things that have like deep meanings about human existence. You're Dying Light, okay? In one of your games, you have a skeleton sitting in front of a DJ stand with headphones still on, as if he died that way. Slow your roll, okay? Slow down. So, do you remember that in Dying Light 2? I don't know if you remember. Because it's I don't think it's supposed to be funny. I could go back and play it again, but
no, it is played kind of serious, because I think the idea was like it was like a suicide party.
Yeah, it was like a suicide party. Yeah. And there's all these like dead bodies laying around a pool, and it's all skeletons because they've all decayed. And that is like a sad, interesting little storytelling element.
But the skeleton DJ does kind of just
the guy died at his post. He was spinning until he ran out of breath, man. I don't know if that, do DJs say that? I don't know. He was ripping those records until he couldn't breathe no more, and he still had his headphones on like a champ. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna spin one more record. I'm gonna do one more screech, and then I'm at 5,000. And they died, and he was a skeleton in front of his records. Okay.
I'm surprised that the skeleton is still, there and not like fallen to the ground and like moved around.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, are you ready to move on here?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to get into this story by Cecilia D'Anastasio over at Bloomberg. Game industry startup troubles. Actually, let me find the actual full headline here, because that was the annotated headline that I put in my notes. So it's Blizzard co-founders game startup struggles amid industry glut. And this is about a few different studios so that are having trouble. Mike Morhaime, who co-founder of Blizzard and is a co-founder of Dreamhaven, released 2 games this year, Wildgate and Sunderfolk. Both games have reviewed well but haven't sold well. Wildgate sold at 130,000 units and Sunderfolk sold 62,000 units. Frost Giant Studios, also founded by Blizzard veterans, released Stormgate, a free-to-play RTS that looks like StarCraft. Despite a smooth launch, Frost Giant CEO Tim Morton says that Stormgate is not getting the concurrency or sales that they hoped for. Speaking to Cecilia D'Anastasio, Morton said, quote, "The games business has always been inherently hit-driven, but as existing games continue to draw players, competition from other digital media like TikTok has increased. Record numbers of new games are being launched, so the challenge is harder than ever." One thing that's interesting, Cecilia D'Anastasio includes data from PitchBook, which I believe is like a market research firm, if I remember correctly, that has counted the number of VC-backed deals for gaming. It reached a high in 2022 with 1,675, but only has 899 in 2024 and has counted just 396 in 2025. And that matches, I think, what we've heard just sort of casually, that publishers are sort of being more sticky, more sticklers about their budget, about what they're willing to accept. And yeah, VCs are as well, as sort of the pandemic bubble bursts and things sort of revert back to a mean, which sucks. I wish, I don't know, we've had this conversation before, and because I can't see you, Connor, just start talking if you have something to say here.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation before about, like, during the pandemic, there was all this money flooding into these game startups and these different companies, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But who knew? Because during the pandemic, even when we had our podcasts, I remember talking about that we were in a bubble and this wasn't going to last, that things were going to revert to the mean. And I wasn't a genius. I just figured that was obvious. That was true for a lot of stuff, right? People started baking bread. It wasn't like 10 years from the pandemic that everybody was consistently going to be baking bread. People just needed hobbies and things to do. So it's like one of them was gaming. And so I think basically everybody kind of saw that was what was going on. And then, of course, the bubble burst, and first you had the tech sector that was doing a bunch of layoffs and whatnot, and now the video games industry is going through a quote-unquote recorrection. And so it makes me think, like, I don't know, how many of these people, how many of these VC, these venture capital, like, deals, how many of these people didn't see this coming? Because it's annoying if they didn't. It's annoying if they didn't, because it's such an obvious thing, and it just makes me, I don't know, it makes me frustrated, because I feel like if I know the industry well enough to know that, I feel like if I ran a VC firm and I was handing out or looking for people to invest in, that I should have known that as well. So if I didn't, then how does that make my operation and my competency look? And that really frustrates me. Of course, the other half of that is that maybe people did know that the bubble was going to burst. I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. I feel like there were probably people that knew that and just invested anyway, because it was sort of like a pump and dump. It was, hey, we're going to have 2-3 years of a bubble. We invest now, we make as much money as we can, and then we exit in the next couple of years, hopefully with making some kind of cash off of like a quick turnaround investment or something like that. Now, what those investments
I wouldn't say
been,
that that's really conspiracy theory, because that, I mean, again, financial experts, and we saw this coming. And financial experts or people that are, in charge of venture capitalist firms would have also seen this coming and figured out how to make as much money before the bubble bursts. And that's probably what they did.
Yeah, the difference, I think one of the issues with like venture capital, and I don't know if this is like true across the board, but like when you work with a publisher, right? Publishers are publishing your game, right? And the rights to like that game's IP that may go with the publisher or whatever, but the publisher doesn't own the development studio, right? The development studio still, and in a lot of cases, we're talking broad strokes here. But venture capital is different, because venture capital is not necessarily, as far as I know, they're not necessarily investing in a specific game. They're investing in a studio as if it is a business, right? So something that can generate them revenue somehow, right? So instead of it being like a publisher signs a deal for a game and they're going to help publish your game, and then they make so much money off of it, and you make so much money off of it, and this publisher has deals with like other people and they're building a game focused business. I don't know if VC firms are not the same thing. They're funding for your studio, but they're funding in a different way, because now it's a different sort of investment, where instead of it being something that is like based on a game or signing a contract for a few games or something like that, they have, I think, like I've read that venture capital will often buy into your studio with the eventual aims to own it or something like that and turn it into a business making venture. So there's a distinction there, and I don't know if I explained myself well enough, but I'm not sure if that distinction is partially what is to blame here, is partially why it's like it's so difficult to get funding for your game and whatnot. Now, it's not easy to get publishers either, so everybody's kind of in a similar spot. But I do think there has to be something there to speak about with like the distinctions between venture capital and publishing and stuff like that. As far as like the games market, I played Sunderfolk. Sunderfolk is one of the best games this year. It's just Gloomhaven, but a digital version. The phone works great as a controller. It's really cool. It's a social experience. It's meant to be played couch co-op. I loved it. I've played maybe 8-10 hours of it, and I genuinely think that it's one of the best games this year. It's just, it has a tiny audience. I think one of the issues with it is that only one person needs to buy a copy, right? So because it's a couch co-op game, and that's great, that's cool that you make this game that is meant to be played by like 4 or 5 people or 4 people, but you're only selling one copy. And
I was going to say, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do understand that it's difficult to make money off of that, right? Especially because it's not like, especially if the whole idea, if you have a friend group that plays this, then you're going to go over to that person's house or something. I guess you can play it digitally, and I'll to be fair, I don't know if you can join a game digitally, or if you join a game over the internet, if you have to have your own copy as well. I don't know that off the top of my head. But anyway, that I'm assuming that limits the market for it somehow, which is too bad. So it's a really cool, ambitious idea that just didn't catch on, which is too bad. Wildgate, I have not played. I know it's got PvP and PvE elements. I hear cool things about it. But I don't know. PvP games are a certain type of investment, right? Not just buying the game, but then I have to like learn the game, and I have to be willing to play other people.
You got to get good.
Yeah, so it's like that's a different, I think, player investment in something, right? I don't know if there's a term for this, but I feel like if you present to somebody with a single player game and a multiplayer game, I feel like there's a pretty big chunk of people out there who their reaction is to recoil a little bit at the multiplayer game, because coming with the multiplayer game is it's not just the game and learning the game itself, but it's also, now I have to be able to beat other humans at this game, right?
Yeah.
Which means I have to learn it to a degree that you may not have to learn a single player game, and I have to play it in such a way that you can't play a single player game. You know, if I'm in the middle of a long delivery in Death Stranding, I can pause it, I can shut down the PS4, I'm fine. Multiplayer games aren't like that, obviously. They're live, you know? So when so many games are coming out that have multiplayer elements, PvP elements, I think it becomes harder and harder to sell, because multiplayer games are more ubiquitous now. The market is more saturated than ever before, and those games already have like a more intense learning curve to them, right? So this market saturation is not, I don't know, it sucks. I wish I knew a way out of it. I don't know if the reaction from venture capital and publishers is totally warranted. I don't know how much of that is greed. I don't know how much of that is just risk aversion, because, oh no, this game isn't Roblox, therefore it's a failure or something like that, you know? So there are a lot of factors here, and it's probably something that is like has a book's worth of information to dissect and whatnot. I did want to say that I don't like. So in the story they talk about, or I read that quote, that competition from other digital media like TikTok has increased. I don't like this idea that games have to compete with TikTok and social media. People may tell me that that's just the reality of the situation, and if it is, so be it. But I just feel like, I don't know, if I'm making a game, I'm making it for people who want to play video games, right? And maybe that's not financially viable, but that just seems weird to me. Like that we've gotten to a point where you can't make a game for people who just want to play video games. You know what I'm saying? That you have to consider that your game is in this other arena where you're competing with people that are on other completely other mediums, on other devices. And at some point, it's just like, I don't know, if a person wants to browse their phone, then they don't want to play games. So
Yeah.
why try and like base your economy and your budget off of a market where half of the market is distracted by videos on TikTok? And it's fine if you want to spend time on TikTok, but it's just like, I don't know, man. Build the game for the people that are there that want to play video games. I don't know. I feel like there's just a conversation to be had. And I'm trying to be empathetic because I'm not going to sit. I don't run a studio, so I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy or that you can just do that. But I think about games like Kingdom Come Deliverance, where it's like Kingdom Come Deliverance, or even GTA 6. Like GTA 6 is going to demand your time, and because it's going to be big and it's going to be involved. Kingdom Come Deliverance is big, involved, and I don't like everything about it, but I respect that they believed in their vision and they made this sprawling medieval RPG with all kinds of management, and you have to eat every day, and you have to sleep, and all this detail and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know, in my mind it was never like, well, we have to, I don't know. It didn't seem like they were worried about, well, if Tyler decides to watch the Yankees, he's not going to play. And it's like, well, they were like, too bad. Like, this is the game we want to make, and it's a good game. And that doesn't always guarantee success, but I don't know. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that. But again, I want to be empathetic, and I don't want to come across like this is easy or that I know all the answers, because I don't. I think Dreamhaven made really cool games. They came up with cool ideas, and it's just, yeah, the market's saturated. So sometimes you're going to have amazing games that just don't sell, That's going to happen, and there's not a whole lot that, anybody can do about it. And that's even in a, if the games industry didn't have all these other problems. I think that's just true of media, There's going to be movies that are good. Furiosa, Mad Max Furiosa, right? Or whatever. Famously, it came out and everybody talked about how good it was, but how it didn't do well in the box office. At least that was true at one point. So like that phenomenon exists in other sectors of entertainment, and it's always going to, because that's just the nature of existence. You can't watch and play everything. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know, this idea that games are competing with TikTok, I don't like it, because it's like, how about we just...
It's not true. It's just a convenient corporate punching bag of something that is, that the kids are doing, that they can point out and see, like, we need to compete with that. Pull the kids away from TikTok and put them in our game.
Yeah, I'm sure there is some kind of truth to it, but I don't know. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable that games have to compete with this other thing. And it's just like, I don't know, that was true. There wasn't a TikTok. The one question I have, and I'm sure there's an answer somewhere to this, I don't know, but like the games market in 2005, right? People like us in 2005 that played different types of games, that, played the biggest games, that, when Blood of the Dawnwalker comes out, we're both going to play it. When Cyberpunk came out, we both played it, right? So like the big hit games to smaller indie titles, we play video games is what we do, right? So there is a market of people like us, right? Gamers, for lack of a better term, or whatever. And that existed in 2005, right? Now, how much has that market grown since 2005? I don't know. What I can tell you is that gaming has gotten bigger, but a lot of the audience is casual. They play COD, they play Madden, they play FIFA, right? PUBG, Fortnite, Roblox. But it is not all the same market, right? The kids that play Roblox religiously are not... We are playing video games and they are playing video games, but I don't know if I would roll us all into the same games market, because we approach games with like different intents, right? We engage with games differently. Same thing with people that have 2 or 3 live service games and that's all they play. Like, You know, they have different expectations, they engage with games differently. So it's almost to a point where it's like they are in a different market, almost a different medium itself. Not necessarily, that's not true, but like almost, right? So my
Mhm.
question is like, okay, how much has the game market grown? And when I mean the game market, I mean people like us. And if it hasn't grown, then how do we scale to that market? How do games scale to that market? And what do we do about the absolute explosion of games? Or the other possibility is that that market has shrunk, and now the vast majority of people are the people that are playing, one or two live service games or playing Roblox, right? So that could be true as well. I just find it hard to believe, especially with how
I don't
successful a lot
think
of
it
single player
shrank.
games are. I don't know. My guess is no, but I don't know.
I mean, I would say just like how much video games have become normalized and just become a part of society. I don't think it's possible that it shrank in the past 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it's probably increased by, you know, factors of, probably a factor of at least a factor of 10 over the past 25 years.
Yeah, that's
Just because there's more people in the world now than 20 years ago.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's the industry has been growing and there's been more money being put into it, so more people have been buying. Or if the number hasn't changed, people are spending more money, but that doesn't seem to be the case with how the industry is reacting to the money in the industry.
Yeah, and of course there's a lot of possibilities. The other possibility is that people aged out of games, so they have family, kids, whatever, so they don't
Yeah.
play games as much as games anymore. The professor that I interviewed, Tori Olson, who wrote that history book about Red Dead Redemption 2, he played games through high school and then he went to college and he stopped playing games for like 20 years, right? He
Mm-hmm.
just stopped gaming because he didn't have time, because he got his doctorate, so he stopped gaming. And then he picked it back up when he was a professor at the University of Tennessee. So his story is different because he eventually picked gaming back up. But like, I wonder how many people that played games in 2005 stopped because they went on to college or got intense jobs or other hobbies or
Mm-hmm.
family, whatever. But of course, the other possibility is that people filled those gaps. People that were born in like 2005 that are 15 or 20 now. It's like, are they playing Black Myth Wukong and Death Stranding 2 and Metal Gear Solid Delta and all that stuff? Is that what they're gonna do? I don't know. That's a big question. I don't have the answers. I don't think anybody has the answers. I don't think Newzoo has the answers. I don't think Omnia, or whatever that market research firm is called, has the answers. I think everybody's just trying their best to like navigate a thing that is volatile. I think that's probably always been true and that's always going to be true. And so, yeah.
I would be willing to bet a lot of money that it has increased by a lot in the past 20 years. And yes, there have been people that aged out or put it down for other interests, but like the number of like the number of like let's plays that happened, like let's play YouTubers like in the early 2010s introduced a whole new generation to different parts of games, to indie games.
Yeah.
and that was massive. There's tons of people that didn't play video games before that were being introduced to it through these videos. So I can't see a way that it hasn't grown or has stagnated, just based off of how the industry has grown in the past 25 years and how ubiquitous gaming has become throughout most of Western society in the past 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I think we'll end it there for now. There's other news that I think the Cloud Chamber layoffs that happened. I'll briefly talk about it real quick. Cloud Chamber laid off I think, around 80 jobs. BioShock 4 has been delayed to 2027. I would like to talk about this story in depth. I think we'll talk about that next week. I'm not sure if Richard will be back, but we are at a minute or an hour 10, so I think it'd be better if we were able to talk about it next week and dig into it a little bit more. And hopefully nothing huge happens before next week. But in any case, follow us, youtube.com/gaming discourse, patreon.com/the gaming discourse. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.